All right. Chad Valdez coming at you for another segment on the Chad Valdez YouTube channel. Coming at you on a Wednesday evening. Coming to you on a Wednesday evening, January the 10th, 2024, a date which will live in Alabama Crimson Tide football as the college football head coaching GOAT, the GOAT of head football coaches in all of college football history, has announced his retirement from coaching. That is Mr. Nick Saban, vintage Nick Saban, as we always call it. So that came as a shock and a surprise to a lot of people. I'll dive into that, and I'm going to dive into a little bit further just about Mr. Nick Saban as well. And obviously, 48 hours removed from the national championship game, which was won obviously by Michigan Wolverines 34-13 over the Washington Huskies on Monday night. So that we're 48 hours removed from that. So still, that's fresh. That's still meat on the bone, if you will, but fresh right off the press, extra, read all about it. Picture it from yesteryears ago or decades ago when you would find this kind of news, football related or not, something that broke the internet this afternoon, but take it back decades and decades ago, where it would be the big breaking news like the Titanic sinking or whatever. You'll get the young newspaper boy standing on the corner downtown, extra, read all about it. Fresh right off the press with this stack of newspapers right there. Everybody coming by probably paying 10 cents to read the damn thing. And every so often I do pick up a newspaper and read it just to have that nostalgic feeling, to get that newspaper smell, if you will. That's just a little bit of a side digress there. In the event, going to dive into that. And before I dive into that, and also about the national championship game, a couple of administration things to do here, a couple of quick points of order, and that is what you're taking a look and listen at right now. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I invite and encourage you to subscribe here to the Chad Valdez YouTube channel, as well as my other sports talk program, the one I've had first before this, and that is via Apple Podcast, where you can find The Real Talk with Chad Valdez. That is a full audio version and format, obviously, and I go into deeper detail on the sports talk that I conduct. This one here, these here on my YouTube channel, are a little bit, or not a little bit, lesser. And stay tuned in for the latter part of this. I'm going to do something special for head football coach Nick Saban. It's going to be a little toast, if you will. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of a clue, a little bit of bait on that hook. So out of the gate, out of the chute, this afternoon, Wednesday, January the 10th, basically broke the internet. But one man can do that. One man has the power and is a needle mover to do that. And that is head football coach Nick Saban. From 2007 to 2023, that's 16 years. That's, you got to include the same year, 2007. So that's 17 seasons he was the head football coach at Alabama. And every now and again, I would ask him, man, do you remember who the coach was before Nick Saban got it? Mike Shula. You got to feel sorry for that guy. Nobody ever talks about him, and nobody ever will. When was the last time you heard that name, Mike Shula? And just think about the pressure and everything involved with Alabama football not having a championship win since 2020, year of COVID or whatever. But have you gone back to the dance, if you will? You've been at the dance many times, but just that everything involved around Alabama football, and now it's going to be different. It won't ever be the same, obviously. So the next head football coach, there's already names out there going around. Dan Lanning, Oregon. Caleb DeBoer has been mentioned. And the first coach in my mind was Dabo Swinney right there in Clemson. Before I get into that, about other coaches, whatever, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time onto it because I try to make these within a 10-minute window. And there's a couple of things I do want to get to. A couple of more things that I do want to get to. I mean, so with Nick Saban, I mean, it's going to be something that's going to be unmatched. It's going to be unmatched. And maybe, Kirby Smart could do that if Georgia goes on a run, if they win another back-to-back. If he gets one next season, the 2024 season, that will be three national championships in 4 seasons. That qualifies a dynasty. You win one, no. You win 2, and that's back-to-back. You win 3 in a row, that's a dynasty. You win 3 out of 4, like the Dallas Cowboys did in the 90s of the Super Bowl, That's a dynasty. New England Patriots in the early 2000s, that built a dynasty, and they won more later on into 2010s, obviously. So with Nick Saban, the career that will be unmatched, the number of wins, well over 200 wins as a whole, as head football coach at Michigan State, LSU, and obviously had a short stint there. Toledo first, and then Michigan State, LSU, a cup of coffee in the NFL, basically 2 seasons with Miami, I believe so, and then went to Alabama. So it's going to be unmatched with 206 wins and 29 losses there. Head football coach at Alabama. 5 of those were technically off of the record book because of whatever reason. And now, so you can say 199 or 206. Let's just go and say 206 wins at Alabama and only 29 losses. And the entirety of his career, I think it's 262 wins, 71 losses, and only 1 tie. That's unbelievable. And coached 4 Heisman Trophy winners, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Devontae Smith, and Bryce Young. I mean, that's going to be unmatched. And so the entire state of Alabama, unless you're an Auburn Tiger fan, unless you're there on the plains in southeast Alabama and Auburn, you're really kind of relieved. And if you're other college football fans or whatever, but you got to respect the guy. But what I'm saying is fans in Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU it's kind of maybe like a seesaw. Man, he's gone or whatever. He was here before. We beat him at however many times with Les Miles. And, I believe Coach O obviously beat him in the 2019 season. And obviously in the 2022 season, the first year with Brian Kelly, they beat Nick Saban as well in Baton Rouge. So how were the LSU fans feeling? That is unknown. But I wanted to come on here and just have a word about Nick Saban. It really came as a surprise and shock because it was mid-last week, the week after the loss to Michigan in the Rose Bowl, after they flew back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and to have the time to catch their breath, let it soak in. Okay, move on, if you will, however you can. Nick Saban, he's lost some. He's won more that he's lost. And just having to regroup or whatever. And there must have been something a little bit, something wasn't there. And obviously there's a statement about Miss Terry. And to go out when you're still feeling good, you're still healthy, if you will. And maybe to go out when it was time. We all hear about the timing thing. And maybe it was time. But he's a young 71 or 72-year-old. He's in great shape. And mental and physical shape, if you will. And his family, I'm sure his family is going to, this is going to be new for us. He's going to be around a lot more. Maybe we're going to push him back to coaching or whatever. That's a little bit of a side entertainment. But it came as a shock because when he had the interview with Paul Feinbaum, Mouth of the South, I'm really unsure of how the first Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, the old WWF or whatever, I guess he didn't, register, trademark that thing, copyright it or whatever. So when Paul Feinbaum had Nick Saban on the show, right around this time last week, I guess that would be around January the 3rd or 4th, Nick Saban seemed like he was okay. He seemed like he had a lot of energy and fuel in the tank still left to go. So this came as a shock and a surprise to a lot of people. And I'm sure it came as a big shock to the returning players of Alabama. Now, they have lost a couple of coaches. The defensive coordinator, Steele, I believe he announced his retirement. And then also the wide receiving coach, Texas A&M, and Mike Elko, they were able to poach him from Alabama. So did that have something to do with it? But also a large part had to do with it, the changing of college football. The changing of college football has a lot to do with this, if you want to call it early retirement, if you will. Because the NIL, the transfer portal, Nick Saban is the last true older guard when it comes to college football. The coaches that were, head coaches in the early 2000s, and even before that in the late 90s, obviously with Michigan State and Toledo first, where you didn't have all the fucking transfers. It wasn't just quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers, linebackers, or whatever. Now fucking punters transfer, deep snappers transfer, second, third string linemen, they transfer. It's ridiculous. I've said this many times before. The transfer portal it does not get used. It doesn't get used. It gets abused. And now they can do it more than once. They can do it how many times they fucking want. That's crazy. Now, it's a little bit different with college coach. That's an actual profession. They have a signed contract with the school, with the program. That's a little bit different with the amateur, not a professional football player. But as college football is ever so changing, and it's getting to be like close to an NFL, like free agents all over the damn place, and NIL as well. So I'm sure that's something that he just saw the writing on the wall as this is changing and necessarily doesn't like it. Still believe he went on the recruiting trail, still likes to do that, very best to my knowledge from everything that I've ever heard about that. So this is just a quick, it's only been about, this is going on right at 11 minutes here, and I want to wrap this up here quickly because I try to keep these way less than 20 minutes. I don't want to spend 20 minutes on this one here. I have a deeper dive into that, into Nick Saban's retirement on Friday, the 12th of January, when I'm going to have it on my on the Real Talk with Chad Valdez. I'm also going to have a returning guest. That is by the name of the gentleman is Lifford Hobley, former NFL player, former LSU Tiger, former NFL player, long time. That was mostly with the Miami Dolphins before he was drafted by, I think he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then he went and played for the St. Louis Cardinals, and then the majority of his career was a defensive back for the Miami Dolphins. And so he's a returning guest on my Sports Talk platform. He's coming up on Friday. Looking forward to that, to talk about some NFL playoffs, obviously talk about some college football as well. I'm sure he's going to want to throw in some word there about Nick Saban's retirement, because he did have a stint there at LSU, brought them a national championship in of the 2004 game, 2003 season. So I'm sure he's going to have a little bit of something to say about Nick Saban's retirement. And I did not really even get into the college football national championship game, and I'll touch on it really quickly. Is that, Washington had a chance there late into the game. When the score was 20-13, they had a chance late into the game. Interception was thrown early in the second half. That was crucial. But they had a chance of, and even before that, the 4th and 7 play where it was there, just incomplete pass. And then also early in the second half, there was, I think it was mid second half, late third quarter, early fourth, there was a long third down play deep in Michigan's territory, in Michigan's own side of the ball, and A.J. McCarthy, he went on a 20-something yard run when it was 3rd and long. And you could just tell right there, the Washington defense was not able to hold them much longer, and Michigan was going to prevail. The icing on the cake was the second interception that Michael Penix Jr. Threw to Sandersill. Went all the way back nearly for a pick six. And the touchdown after that, that was the icing on that cake. So that was unfortunate for Washington Huskies fans. I was going for them. So was my 15-year-old son, Ryder. Got him a Washington football T-shirt because he was liking them and really did not want Michigan to win. So, I was going for Washington and picked them to win. Obviously, that was incorrect. But I picked Alabama to win the whole damn thing. I was not right on that either. So, as I wrap it up here, everybody, I really appreciate you joining in and tuning into this. And also, what I'm going to do, I can't forget that I said that I was going to do something special, a toast here to the vintage Nick Saban. So that's what I'm doing right now. So pardon me for doing this, getting out of the way of the camera here, but you got to do it. You have to keep things cold. Maybe I gave a little bit of a clue of what that was. So this is to a courtesy toast with my favorite cold beverage, Troy Aikman's 8 Elite Light Lager. This is not a paid endorsement. Don't worry. I want to check that box. This is not a paid endorsement. But this is a cold 8 beer and a celebratory toast to Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time. You earned everything that you got. All the blood, sweat, and tears, tireless hours, nights in, nights out. This is for you. All of the thanks to you, Nick Saban. Congratulations, Nick Saban. That toast was for you. We'll see you down the road.